My opinion was that there was nothing available in all the discovery and the medical records that were consistent with infection causing Corey's death or even playing a role in it.
An expert for the prosecution in Chris Gregor's murder trial testifies about Corey Micciolo's cause of death. I'm outlining why another doctor is testifying and what she had to say about the 6-year-old and how he passed away. Thanks for joining me for Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Corey Micciolo's cause of death is going to be key in Chris Gregor's murder trial. Gregor is accused of murdering Corey on April 2nd, 2021, by causing major trauma to his little body that very day. But his attorney has claimed to the jury that Corey died from sepsis, a blood infection.
And you're going to hear testimony from doctors, experts. You're going to hear testimony from Dr. Larkin, who, by the way, Dr. Larkin has no skin in the game. This is a doctor that comes to the hospital. He's from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner here in Ocean County. He has no idea what the relationship is between Christopher and Brianna and Christopher and Rebecca. He's got no clue. He just evaluates the child by science and medicine. Dr. Larkin found that Corey's blood results from Southern Ocean showed incredibly high white blood count, high glucose, and high lactic acid, and said that's all indicative of sepsis caused by an infection. The same sepsis that Jersey Shore Medical Center told Brianna Micciolo, do not take this child from the hospital. He possibly has sepsis. We need to evaluate him. Chief Medical Examiner here in Ocean County, his evaluation, you're going to hear evidence, sepsis, infection, not murder.
Gregor's attorney, Mario Gallucci, said the sepsis could have been brought on by pneumonia. But Dr. Anat Feingold, a pediatrician, testified this week that she reviewed Corey's medical records at the request of the prosecution and doesn't agree with that finding.
Now, after you reviewed all of that material, did you render an opinion with respect to whether Corey died as a result of some infectious process?
I did.
What was your opinion?
My opinion was that there was nothing available in all the discovery and the medical records that were consistent with infection causing Corey's death or even playing a role in it.
When you say nothing available, it didn't exist?
I didn't see anything that suggested infection.
And is that opinion to a medical degree of certainty?
Absolutely.
Dr. Feingold detailed the records she reviewed, including Corey's medical records from the night before he died. His mother, Brianna Micciolo, had taken him to the doctor and later the hospital to be evaluated. Corey had bruises, and Micciolo had tried to get an emergency court order to get custody of Corey, who had been living full-time with Gregor while she had visitation rights. A judge denied that emergency request for custody. Here's Dr. Feingold offering her opinion of the records from those visits, which took place less than 24 hours before Corey passed away.
Was there anything within those records that was important to you in regard to formulating your opinion that you're here to give?
Yes, so that visit occurred the day before Corey's death at about 5:20 in the evening, and at that time Corey was described as having had no fever, no complaints of any kind of physical ailment other than the marks on his body for which his mom had sought evaluation. He was afebrile, so no fever. His vital signs were completely stable, and he, on physical exam, there was no abnormality, and in specific, the amount of oxygen in his blood was normal. The He appeared to be completely well and have normal activity. His lung examination was completely clear, no abnormal sounds in the lungs. And so at that time, with a physician evaluating him, there was no evidence of any kind of infectious process.
And is it fair to say that was about 24 hours before Corey died?
Exactly.
Did you review the records from Community Medical Center?
I did.
And was there anything within those records that was important to you in regard to formulating your opinion?
Again, the findings were very similar. The vital signs were normal, meaning there was no elevation in his respiratory rate.
Dr. Feingold went on to detail how Corey appeared healthy the day before he died, despite those bruises.
The other important information that was gathered at that visit was that Corey had no evidence of a significant viral infection, respiratory viral infection. So he was tested for COVID, he was tested for respiratory syncytial virus, he was tested for influenza A and B, and those were all negative. So again, the conclusion reading this was that he was, a well-appearing child other than the bruising that was noted. And he was described by the nurses as alert, appropriate, and walking normally with a steady gait. So again, this being the third evaluation, so we have three, physical examinations by physicians all of whom believed that this child was, and he did, look completely healthy, other than the bruising.
And Dr. Feingold talked about a recording of Corey from the morning that he died, when Brianna Micciolo dropped him off at Chris Gregor's apartment. Brianna Micciolo had accidentally recorded Corey on her cell phone for just 33 seconds.
Now, you had mentioned in the discovery that you reviewed that there was a video of particular importance to you. Could you tell us about that?
When I listened to the 33-second clip that was taken in the car, Corey spoke, not a lot, but he spoke to his mom, and he had no shortness of breath. So, sometimes when people will call us and say their child is having trouble breathing, and we'll say put the child on the phone and see if they can give a full sentence without having to take a breath. Or the other thing that was notable was that he never coughed, and you never heard any other sounds except for the mom and Corey speaking. There was no wheezing heard or anything like that. But just he clearly was speaking normally by report, and by the video he sounded like, a regular healthy kid.
There's no moaning in that video that you
No.
heard?
No, none.
I want to take just a really quick break to tell you about something new here at Law&Crime. It's called True Crime Goods. We know so many of our viewers get obsessed with the cases we cover, and we have a lot of Law&Crime armchair detectives out there. That's where our new store, True Crime Goods, comes in. It's the ultimate shop for the true crime addict. From True Crime Academy sweatshirts to In My True Crime Era t-shirts and Fueled by Coffee and True Crime mugs, True Crime Goods has it all. So whether you want a Varsity Forensic Squad crew neck or Law&Crime beanie, True Crime Goods has everything you need for yourself and your friends. Our Law&Crime viewers can get 10% off their True Crime Goods order with our promo code Law&Crime10. Check it out. But things changed significantly later that day when Dr. Feingold said Chris Gregor brought Corey into the hospital.
Well, at that time, he was obviously critically ill. He was described as ashen and very pale. He had what we call altered mental status, so he wasn't appropriately awake. He was described as somnolent. So that suggests maybe that something's going on in his head, or he's not perfusing well. He was disoriented. He was difficult to arouse. There was no wheezing, no crackles associated with pneumonia, no abnormality on the lung exam to suggest a pulmonary infection.
And those are all things that you would expect to see from someone that had a pulmonary infection.
Yeah, absolutely. And also somebody who comes in looking this ill, if this was due to a pulmonary infection, I would expect very significant changes in the ability to breathe and his pulmonary exam.
Ultimately, Dr. Feingold drew conclusions about Corey's death.
So in sum, Dr. Feingold, what, if any, conclusions did you reach whether an infection caused or contributed to Corey's death?
My conclusion was that there was no evidence that Corey had an infectious disease at any point, and certainly that was not his cause of death.
So there you go. Dr. Feingold agrees that sepsis did not cause Corey's death. The defense hammered Dr. Feingold about her opinion and her qualifications.
So why do we have forensic pathologists?
Objection, Judge. Is it a quiz?
No, it's a question. Why do we have forensic pathologists?
Sarcastic, Judge.
I mean, if you're telling me
Your Honor, I just wanted to hear Your Honor's ruling on my objection.
Well, it's somewhat argumentative, I suppose, but you can ask her understanding of that if you want. You start to ask another question. So you were drawing that question?
I'll withdraw that question. So a forensic pathologist took blood cultures and you said that they're not reliable. Forensic pathologist took a CAT scan. You said that's not reliable, right?
I disagree with your first statement. Forensic pathologists don't take blood cultures. Physicians treating patients take blood cultures when they present, or when they're in the hospital.
But you disagreed with some of the things that Dr. Odessa did, right? You said they were of no value.
I disagreed with a post-mortem lung culture.
Okay. You said it was of no value.
Right.
And the CAT scan of no value.
My understanding was that the CAT scan was ordered by someone else, but I might be wrong about that.
Okay.
But yes, that it's not interpretable.
So as you saw, things got a little bit sassy there. Mario Gallucci then asked Dr. Feingold about the last time she performed an autopsy. She said it would have been in 1979 when she was in medical school. She's a pediatrician, so her patients, of course, are typically alive. He's obviously setting the stage, Gallucci is, for the testimony of renowned forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden, who's expected to testify for the defense that Corey died as the result of sepsis. Then Gallucci asked a question that's pretty common when it comes to expert testimony.
You got paid, right, to review this case?
Not yet, but yes.
You're going to get paid for reviewing the documents provided to you by the prosecution, right?
I expect yes.
Okay. And you're going to get paid for discussing it with them, right? Or did you meet with Ms. Schran or Ms. Lento prior to walking through those doors?
Yes.
Okay. And when you met with them, did they discuss the case with you?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if either one of them, I'm assuming neither one of them have any medical degrees. So did you explain to them the medical technology?
Yes.
You did so right here. When Ms. Schran asked you a question, you actually corrected her on the word she used, right?
Not on the word, but on the pronunciation of the word.
And I'm sure you're going to do that often to me right now. So, and you're actually getting paid to sit right here and testify for them, right? Or you expect to be, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how the medical examiner's office works?
What I understand is that the medical examiner is hired by the state, and when an autopsy is indicated, there's a question as to a patient, whether the death was natural or unnatural, then the case can be referred to the medical examiner to try to make that determination.
So you said something very interesting. You said that the medical examiner is paid by the state, right?
That's what I understand,
Okay, not paid by the prosecution.
as far as I know.
So the medical examiner in this case was Dr. Lagasi, right?
Objection, Judge, misinterpreting.
Earlier in the trial, a pathologist testified for the state that he did not believe Corey died from sepsis.
Did you make any findings regarding sepsis or infection?
Once again, that issue came up on the initial examination. And based not only on the autopsy findings, but my review of the medical records, there's zero, not one scintilla of evidence of sepsis or any other infectious process in Corey's autopsy.
Dr. Thomas Andrew did not perform the autopsy on Corey, but reviewed records pertaining to it.
In my opinion, these injuries occurred at roughly the same time, and their age could have been as recent as 4 hours, but as old as 12 hours prior to when Corey actually died at 5 p.m. on the 2nd. That was the finding based on the histology. Additional evidence that I saw fine-tuned that time frame a little tighter.
And doctor, can you tell us about the additional evidence that you saw to fine-tune that time frame?
So if you think about that time frame of 4 to 12 hours, that would have been from 5 a.m. the day before to about 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 2nd. There was a video that was alluded to, and it wasn't an intentional video. There were no people in the video. You could basically see that the phone was on a car seat or something. And, Attorney Lento, have folks seen this video? Do they know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So it appears as if the phone was like on a car seat or something. And it was represented to me that this was Corey's mother dropping him off for custodial care with his father. And they were having a conversation. Well, this was at about 9 o'clock. Corey was answering questions. He was conversational. He was normal. Audibly. So if that's at 9 o'clock, the period of time of injury from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, in my mind, is eliminated. A person with these injuries is not going to be responding like Corey would in the car. So that puts us between 9 a.m. and approximately 1 p.m. I can't narrow it down any more specifically than that, but I am confident that that is the range of time in which Corey was injured.
So this trial could turn out to be an epic battle of the experts, with jurors weighing the testimony of the various doctors and nurses, Corey's mother, Dr. Michael Bodden, and possibly and likely the testimony of Christopher Gregor himself. That treadmill video, while it occurred days before Corey's death, could also play a role in the jury's decision. That's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.